Let me ask you something. Why does something that should be simple feel heavier than it used to? You're not making a big decision. You're standing in front of a menu, a feed, a list of options that honestly shouldn't matter. And yet, you don't move. You scroll back, then forward. And you sit there longer than you meant to. Not because the options are bad, but because once you choose, there's no one left to blame. That's the part we almost never talk about. Because there was a time, very recently, when choice came with guidance, defaults, recommendations, standards. Someone else quietly absorbed part of the risk. Now choice shows up alone. We're told this is freedom, but it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like exposure. And that feeling isn't just personal, it's structural. According to the Global Council for Behavioral Science, the human brain was never designed to hold endless variables at once. They describe something called cognitive load, the strain placed on the mind when it's forced to continuously evaluate options without resolution. And here's the key part. This isn't about emergencies. It's about everyday life. The clothes, the content, the decisions that never end. Researchers studying decision-making, published through U.S. National Health Institutes, have shown that the more decisions a person makes, the worse their judgment becomes later on. Not because they're careless, because the system responsible for choosing gets depleted. Psychologists call this decision fatigue, but that name doesn't really capture what it feels like, because it's not just fatigue, it's responsibility without relief. You're expected to choose well, every time, and own the outcome. Barry Schwartz, a psychologist who studied this for decades, described it as the paradox of choice. His work showed that when people are given too many options, they don't feel empowered. They feel anxious, less satisfied, more likely to regret what they chose or what they didn't. In controlled studies, people presented with fewer options were more confident and happier with their decisions than those given many. More freedom, less peace. And this didn't happen because life became chaotic. It happened because systems became clean, interfaces got smoother, menus got longer, responsibility got quietly transferred. Nothing tells you what works anymore. Everything just tells you what's available. So if it goes well, it was your smart choice. If it fails, it was also your choice. There's nothing external to push against. No standard to appeal to. No structure to absorb the loss. And slowly, almost invisibly, something changes. You stop trusting outcomes. Then you stop trusting yourself. You don't regret decisions anymore. You regret possibilities, the lives you didn't choose, the timelines you abandoned. And those don't fade. They accumulate. If this sounds uncomfortably precise, that's intentional. That's what FlowForm exists to do. We don't motivate. We don't reassure. We map the patterns most people sense, but never name. So if you want more of this kind of clarity, subscribe to FlowForm, not for answers, for recognition. Now, notice how much effort choosing takes from you. You research trivial purchases like they're permanent commitments. You delay decisions not because you don't care, but because caring feels risky. Even after you choose, you don't relax. You monitor, you replay, you scan for regret. Even good outcomes feel fragile. In relationships, this becomes overthinking connection. In careers, endless comparison. In identity, a quiet fear that you picked wrong. Philosophers used to argue that real freedom required structure, boundaries, shared responsibility. What replaced that wasn't chaos. It was order, clean systems, infinite options, total personal liability. You didn't fail at choosing. You were given responsibility without protection. And now, every outcome is yours.